Hello, everyone in the cheese room. I am your host, Jack H. I'm broadcasting to you from the North American headquarters of the Cheese Room Empire. I'm here with two esteemed guests to talk about that up and down game, to say the least, that we had at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I've got HG from Vienna. How are you tonight?
Relieved, but happy, and yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right. I mean, like a fluky win is still a win, so I'm doing well.
Good, good. And Gibbo, it's good to be back on a show with you. And I'm sure it seems like you'd be having a good week. Aston Villa lose and Spurs win. What more can you ask for?
Well, I could have asked for it to be a lot easier than it was, mate. A lot less stressful. But like
You
HG
wouldn't be
said,
a Spurs fan.
No. Just I'm relieved, and I'm just glad we got the 3 points. But they put us through it, don't they?
Yeah, they really do. And I think that's a good place to start. I mean, obviously everyone knows how that game went. It was very much a tale of two halves, or maybe 80 minutes and 30 minutes, maybe might be more likely. But I'll say, HG, we certainly didn't look too convincing in the first half. I was wondering what your opinion is, that the worst half under Ange this season, or not quite the worst first half?
I don't think it was the worst because that Wolves game, will always stick in me a little bit. That Wolves game, we were really poor, even though we scored super early. That felt like it felt very much like Pochettino in those games where teams would come to White Hart Lane and nick a goal and then just camp on the edge of their box. And we looked like we were clueless in those games. We looked pretty clueless in the first half today. But yeah, it was a weird first half because we started pretty well. We gave away a couple of silly chances. They got the goal, and then for about half an hour, it was more like a WWE fight than it was. Like there was very little football being played. It was all little niggles and slide digs and people throwing themselves to the ground for the camera, and it was barely a football match, right? But first off, I don't want to relive. But
Yeah,
it was just like I think a lot of it came down to like the tactics and the lineups of the two sides.
yeah, chief among those WWE contestants has to be Norgard. I don't know how much he paid the refereeing crew to keep him on the field. That was ridiculous. I mean, that takedown of Johnson at the end of the game, I almost skipped forward, but I don't understand how he stayed on the pitch. That was ridiculous. I mean, the cards were flying except for him.
He would have gone. I think he stepped in the way of a free kick as well, didn't he? And I think the ref sort of went to do something. And then I honestly think if hadn't have yellow carded him, he would have yellow carded him for that. But he never. And then he didn't even give a free kick when he took Johnson down. So and there was just a couple of other.
And he was looking right at it.
Yeah, and I don't want to say like the ref bottled sending him off because it wasn't a massive game, but it just felt like he didn't want to send him off. But like if you break those rules and you due a yellow card, aren't you? It doesn't matter like how soon it is after or what stage of the game it's at. A yellow's a yellow, and that was poor refereeing on his part.
And that's the thing. Like, we're going to talk about this. We might as well do it now. But like his first yellow was a yellow. It was his first foul of the game, but he knew what he was doing. It's a clear yellow. Fine. All the other little niggly things, like maybe the one on Bentancur, but I don't really think that was a second yellow. But the one on Johnson clearly was. And I feel like the referee. I mean, I don't think he bottled it. I think he genuinely thought it wasn't a foul. And
I think you're right.
Johnson is that kind of waif-like winger who you can just nudge 10 feet to the side. Yeah. That was the clearest, I think, mistake of the referee.
What about when he stepped in front of the ball though, HG? That's a yellow card offence, isn't it? He did that in the first half.
Don't ask me the rules on those things.
Well, obviously nobody knows the rules, but
you can't watch the game and think there are consistent rules because everyone seems to referee.
Yeah, you're right about that.
But I do feel that last one on Johnson, and there's only a few minutes left, so maybe it wouldn't have changed the game that much. But that was the clearest second yellow because he's no intention of getting the ball. He just wants to get kind of in the way of Johnson. And yeah, it was that was just bad refereeing, but you kind of expect that in the Premier League.
I mean, the ref, I see on the socials and people talking, and Steve in our group said about someone in the Tunnel Club who had to go at the referee. I didn't think the referee was that awful. I think how he dealt with Norgard was correct. But I don't think he reffed the game extremely poorly, personally. Do you?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it felt more weak than bad.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
when you
yes.
feel like the time wasting that Brentford were up to, obviously the crowd were fully on that from the first time they even tried it. But if the referee's not willing to do anything about it, or like even to hurry them up, you don't have to book them for doing it straight away, but to be like, all right, off you go. And they took an age over everything. But again, that was almost that was in the WWE half an hour, where it felt as if it was happening on a football pitch, but there was no football. It was just, we're going to play for the crowd, and the crowd, I don't think really helped it, because at that point we're 1-0 down, and it felt like a lot of the fans were like, we can't be losing to this lot. We've got Maddison back. Now we're going to make our run for the title. So how can we be losing to Brentford, who, let's face it, had taken the chances that we'd handed to them? So it felt like everyone had forgotten that we actually should be playing football, and it was more about somehow winning points in a pantomime.
Yeah. Well, I think in good actual instant reaction for tradition, we're going to skip around a little bit. So we've started at the end of the game. Now we're going to go back to the beginning, because your host isn't paying attention. And I thought I'd get Gibbo, what your feeling was. When the lineup came out, I don't think there was any question about who this best starting 11 were, or at least starting 10 were. I think the only question was going to be, was it going to be Pierre or Skip? I assume that's what you would have felt. But if you had a different opinion on that lineup, you tell me what you think.
No, I was roughly the sort of lineup I was hoping for. But me and HG, just before you came in, we were just talking. It's as if like Højbjerg plays, and like he had a half decent game against Man City. Then he has a few nightmare bits, and he has a period where he's terrible. So we can't play Højbjerg. We'll put Skip in this time, and then we play Skip, and he doesn't really do what we need him to. So we have to get him back off and put Højbjerg back in, and then Højbjerg will probably start the next game, and he'll be iffy. So we'll have to bring Skip in. It's just at the HG said, like, once Sar's back, obviously, and Bissouma, it's a bit different. But it's just with those two, neither of them can. I think both of them are pretty able footballers, pretty decent, but limited to what they can do in terms of what we need them to do. So we're just flitting between them both, because neither of them really feel what we want them to do. So it's just a toss of a coin between those two. But up front, that's what I did want to see. But I was a little bit disappointed with both the wide men. Werner,
we'll come to that. Let me ask.
That's what I wanted to see. So that's what I did want to see.
So on the point of, obviously the only really point is Skip or Pierre coming into that spot. I didn't feel that Skip did anything that wrong. I thought he was serviceable. He was fairly decent. I mean, he's just not the ball possession, press resistant type of player that Sarr is. So you can't play him the same way that Sarr does, but I didn't see he did really anything wrong. What was your thinking in the first half, and did you think that it was a good idea to bring Pierre in the second half as an alternative? HG.
So for me, like, I didn't think Skip would start. I thought we'd stick with the Bentancur Højbjerg +1, whether it was going to be Maddison if he was fit, or Kulusevski again. When I heard that Maddison had been named and was starting, my first question was, well, who's not playing? Because is it going to be Kulusevski? He's a straight switch, or is Kulusevski going to go to right wing and Johnson missed out? So when it happened the way it was, like, I still feel like I think Højbjerg is a better player than Skip. I think he's a better 8 than Skip. I think he would suit that position more than Skip does. That doesn't mean Skip played badly. I just think that Bentancur and Højbjerg play really well together. And in that first half, our midfield wasn't horrific. Our front three was, pretty bad. But I feel like again, I don't want to say this, there was very little football to judge them on. Like, so at half time, when we took Bentancur and Skip off, my instinct was, hey, what? So what are we doing? Because I didn't think either of them really deserved it. I could imagine, obviously, I think we all thought there was going to be some kind of change, because we needed to do maybe something different. We couldn't just keep on playing the way we had in that first half, which was basically into Brentford's hands. Like we'd said before the game that Brentford would come out and play and that would help us. Well, they didn't, and it didn't. And then our idiocy helped them. So once they got their goal, they were like, great, we'll sit on that goal lead. We're not even going to try much. We'll just put our 3 centre-backs and our 3 central midfielders, And if you want to go down the wings, good luck to you, because let's face it, they clearly felt that any cross from Kulusevski was going to be headed away pretty easily. And Werner, those occasions in the first half where he did get half a yard, couldn't kick the ball properly, frankly. Like he'd swing at it and he'd kind of scuff it. And so why would you worry about that? If that's all Spurs can offer is crosses from wide and bad passing, we'll take that 1-0 and we'll run with it as much as we can. So, like, taking Bentancur and Skip felt like we were going for it almost too much. I didn't expect it to really change the way we played. And if I'm honest, I still don't think it did. We may have scored 3 goals in that second half, but I don't feel as if when we had the ball, the 11 that we had on the pitch were really much better in the second half than the ones we had in the first half.
Yeah, and let's talk about that goal, Gibbo. I mean, I feel like the first Brentford goal was an example of watching the two center backs who have really not played that many games together and have a miscommunication that you would have expected earlier in the season, but maybe not at this point, because clearly, for some reason, Romero starts to come across and make the play to cut Tony off, but then miraculously, some reason, just pulls away, like literally starts tracking the runner behind him, and it looked like a huge miscommunication, giving Tony all day in space to crank his, a great, powerful shot right at Vicario, who unfortunately palms it right in the center of the goal for my most least liked player to put it into the net. God, that guy winds me up. Anyway, but yeah, that was the first time I've ever really seen our center backs clearly miscommunicate and misplay a break. They're usually much better. What would you see there?
It was just a shit show all around, wasn't it? Give the dog his pass, and then was it Bentancur who sort of just couldn't get hold of it?
Started
yeah.
Didn't come to that.
And he gets away, and like you said, they didn't really commit to either closing him down or They just sort of didn't really do anything, did they? And even when Vicario saves it, it's as if like Mope sort of kicks it at himself, and it goes from one foot to the other and went in. So it was just a bit of a shit goal. But yeah, that just like lack of communication and lack of knowing what they were really doing. That's how it seemed. Maybe maybe they give one of them give a shout to the other one not to go, needed to stay, so he just stopped. I don't know, but it was just a poor goal, wasn't it? Just poor all around.
Yeah.
You're on mute, HG. Yeah, I feel like Romero played it quite well, if I'm honest. Like, It was clearly, you'd think he would be the one to come across, but if he comes across, then Tony's got to kick it 5 yards to the left and the guy's got to tap in, right? So he looks like he's going to come, and then they have this moment where he decides not to, and Van der Ven's thinking, what are you doing? Van der Ven's suddenly not going full speed to get back either. So they both have that period of hesitation, which means that Tony gets the shot off, pretty easily. But it's just, I don't blame Romero too much. It felt like Romero was the obvious one to come across, but if you do that, you get an almost certain goal, right? And so,
if you do,
yeah, kind of. And like,
it's not they're not at fault for the goal. I mean, the turnover by Udogie was what set everything in motion. I was just curious. It seemed like for the first time they were looking at each other and confused and not playing the way, but maybe it was the only logical way to play it. I don't know. Yeah, in fact, it's interesting because the goal that was chalked off right before that, just 90 seconds or so, when they replayed it back, that was the worst shape I have seen Tottenham defense ever. I mean, if you roll that goal back and actually look at the positioning of the back line, which is not even a back line, it's just there's 4 defenders in this space, and Van de Ven is having to drop back because Udogie's holding people back, and so you just had this convoluted line. I mean, it was incredibly ugly. I was very frustrated watching that, and as long as we come to Udogie, he had a tough night. Goal aside, he had a really tough night. And he basically obviously handed them 2 goals. Is there anything you saw, HG, about Udogie different tonight? He was fine, I think, mostly going forward, but his defensive positioning and his decision making on the ball in the midfield seemed pretty atrocious.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether it's he doesn't feel particularly comfortable with Werner being in front of him. He doesn't trust him too much. I mean, that's harsh on Werner because you play the ball to him and let him deal with it. But like Udogie, I mean, he's had a couple of moments defensively. And we've seen it. Like he's pretty good going forward. If we can get him in forward positions and he's comfortable on the ball, But when he's having to, like, I look at Davies in those situations, and I do feel more comfortable because Davies will take the safe option. He's
Right.
not the one to really try and do something a bit too weird, whereas Udogie will, and clearly prefers that. That's why Udogie plays every game. But it's like, I think once he'd scored, we were like, okay, like it's 1-1 in the Udogie stakes, right? Not just the game, but Udogie's made a mistake. They've scored. He's now got one back himself. And thankfully, by the time he made his second mistake, that we'd already got a couple more goals. But like I think I saw John from the cheese room at halftime wondering if Udogie is like the yardstick of Spurs, and if he plays well, we play well, and if he plays badly, then we struggle. I don't know if it's that simple, but I like when you get these players like Udogie making mistakes, it's a good chance that we will get punished. I mean that's just the role that he plays. Like if he's got the ball and going backwards, and you make a bad choice, you're going to put the whole team in trouble. So I still, I don't know if I necessarily blame him. And the second one, he said, you wouldn't expect Ivan Toney to be there. No one expected Ivan Toney to be there for the second one. But
that's what I was wondering. And I wrote that down. I actually wrote it out. It says, what is Toney even doing there? And I wonder if there's anyone who was at the game. I don't know if they're watching.
I think he was struggling at that point, Jack. I think Toney was struggling at that point of the game. I think he kept, like they kept saying, he kept going down and rubbing his calf. Obviously, it's his second game back. He'd put a lot of effort into that, and I just think he was struggling. So he made no massive effort to sort of get back on side or get back up the pitch. As HG, we were talking, he said like at 3-1, it was basically over. They'd sort of given up, and I think he was in that position because he, they would
There's
just
no reason to track back.
Yeah, exactly. And we just literally give it to him, and he put it away, didn't he? So I think that's why he was in that position.
Yeah, I mean, I was just astonished, obviously, because when you're watching on television, you see the back pass and you're totally relaxed, and all of a sudden up pops a striker, and you're like, what the hell is going on? And the only thing I can think of that could have prevented that really is Udogie doesn't kind of get fumbled with the ball and have to spin around and come back to begin with. He's not instead of just getting the ball out wide. But at the same time, I guess, it happened so fast. I don't even know if Vicario had had time to say, there's no help. There's no back pass. I don't even think he really even would have had time. I just think that's one of those fluke freak events where there's a player somewhere that just shouldn't be. You're never going to see, I think, ever again, a striker sitting on the top of the 18 when you've had the ball in the other team's half. I mean, it's just bizarre. Very frustrating though.
This is it. Like those two goals that we conceded, they came from our mistakes, but we've seen that all season long. Like Spurs give up good chances. And sometimes the other team will take them, and sometimes, like again, the goal that Brentford scored that was disallowed. I mean, we're talking millimeters, right? But they won the ball high up the pitch. They played two simple passes, and the fullback arrows it in the bottom corner. What Ivan Toney couldn't do 2 minutes later when they did score. So, like clearly, teams. I mean, Brentford. They're mid to lower table. They've got relegation worries, but they've got good enough players that they will take advantage of those mistakes. And
not even their best 11. A lot of them are in Africa at the AFCON and stuff and injured. That wasn't even their best 11 by far.
Do you think, HG, like you said, that they make those two simple passes and they're through? At times, we hold on to the ball too much rather than make that direct simple pass and move it quick. Like they do that and they pull teams apart where we sort of, even sometimes Romero, who I thought was fantastic tonight, but he gets on the ball, he stops, he slowly walks it up. And then when you're playing against teams who are playing 3 at the back, 5 in midfield, they just sit back and let you have it. And we don't do that enough, do we? We don't, that's what we need to do more.
I mean, to give Brentford their due, like they got caught 3 times high up the pitch, which they hadn't done at all in the first half, right? First one, I think, was from a corner. We get the ball, we go down the field, and we score super quickly. Second one, pretty much the same, right? Like they've kicked off, they're moving into our half, and we managed to break through and score. So it feels like when we have a chance to fast break, I mean, we showed it tonight. Like if we have a chance to have runners, then we can make good decisions. And I think 2 of our goals are pretty lucky tonight. But still, I think that if it's the right player making the pass, we're fine. The thing with Brentford is that they don't have players that aren't comfortable on the ball anywhere on their pitch. Their 11 players are all comfortable at all times. Even the centre backs, they're ball playing centre backs. Like Collins is a good footballer, and Pinnock is a good footballer. Like they don't have any like engine merchants. They don't have people that are there just to provide stability. Like they're all good on the ball, and Spurs don't have that. And maybe it's because of the injuries we've had and everything else. But I'm not sure I really believe that. We just don't have as many technically proficient players. And like I say that as someone who is not good at football, but I mean, I've said this before. I love Matthias Jensen, but he's two-footed, he's composed on the ball, and you can't phase him. And we don't have enough players like him, in my opinion. We have some that can do it, but if we don't have enough, then you do struggle.
And let's be honest, we could have been as poor as we were in that first half. They took, like I said, that ball came out to Mope, and he somehow managed, he sort of bundled it over into the net. We had one real chance, that header from Werner, and that was pretty pathetic, wasn't it? That I don't even know what the fuck he did there. How he literally just, that looked like somebody really shit would do in the playground, didn't it?
Honestly, the
body shape, everything was just. What are you doing?
I haven't seen a replay bar what happened at that moment. So, over here in Austria, we don't get 15 minutes of showing the highlights at halftime. We get highlights of the previous games. So, all I know is that when I watched it back that one time straight after, the ball went where his body told it to go. There was no mistake involved. The mistake was he just didn't get his body in the right position. And it should have been a relatively simple get your head in the right area and have it bounce off it. You don't. You didn't have to do anything crazy because the keeper's well out off his line, completely out of it. You just guide it. The fact that he tried to almost like put power on it and not it showed a complete lack of understanding of what the football is actually doing and what you can do to put it like it feels like it was a bad miss. It was an absolute
terrible
bad miss.
miss.
But like everyone talks about the one that Darren Bent missed. Right, years ago, but the one that Darren Bent missed, cross comes in, he's all by himself, he's 6 yards out, but Darren Bent at least is trying to do the right thing, head it down, head it low, make it difficult for the keeper, and he gets it slightly wrong. The one from Werner today, I think that's a worse miss. I genuinely think that's a worse miss because he didn't have to do much to divert it over the line, and he couldn't even do that.
Yeah, terrible. And so, and in that first half, I mean, still focusing a little bit on the first half and the difference between first and second. What I don't understand in the first half is how narrow we were playing. We both Werner and Decky are basically even with the penalty area, and there's just no width at all. And you were saying playing into Brentford's head because we were trying to thread balls through, and there's no space at all because everyone's packed in. And then finally, the second half, which is different, width was created. We didn't necessarily play a whole lot better, but certainly that first 10, 15 minutes where we were getting more space and we were countering a little bit more. When we have runners on the far touch, amazing things can happen. That's how you get that first goal from that. I'm sorry, not first goal, but the goal from Werner to Johnson is getting width and the wingers coming in at the end and getting behind the back line. I don't know how you can at this point still be so narrow when clearly I thought the point of this style was to have your width hugging the touchline, and they did in the second half, just didn't in the first. I don't understand how that happens.
I thought Maddison and Kulusevski, when they were playing as part of the midfield three, ended up quite wide at times, which would either push the wingers out wide, or we'll get more out wide. And they sort of pushed up with the higher players. Whereas I thought, like, obviously, not saying they were poor, but Skip and Bentancur don't want to do that, do they? Like Bentancur doesn't want to, he sort of wants to get the ball and dictate the play. He didn't want to do that. So I felt that's why we sort of had Kulusevski on the one side and then Maddison on the other. And they sort of give us a little bit more width to allow the wide players to get in those spaces we exploited in the second half.
And
that's
like
the move.
That first half, we were very differential to Maddison. It felt like give the ball to Maddison and see what's going to happen. And that was never going to work, right? Because we can't expect him to be world class from the first moment back. Like, he's clearly not really fit. He's not done much work with the ball by the looks of it. But so second half, when Kulusevski comes inside and suddenly like Maddison's right, I'm on the left of the three, Kulusevski's on the right of the three. We're going to do the same thing. And so we felt more comfortable. And it was a massive gamble to do what Ange did at halftime. To say, you know what, we're going to have Højbjerg basically sit and everyone else is going to try and keep the ball and move the ball forward. And we're going to have pace on either side. And maybe we can get some balls around the back. All of those things that we want to see. And we scored 3 goals from fast breaks, 2 of which involved lucky deflections. Like, I understand that it's great to throw people into the box because you're right. You never know what might happen. If you don't have players there, then you won't get those lucky deflections, or those lucky deflections won't help your team. But at no point in tonight's game did I think we saw Ange ball actually work. We had the first goal, Doggy came down, and the deflection went into his path, and he side-footed it in. Perfect. Like, they all count. I don't know why I care this much. Right? We won the game. We should be happy, and we are. But the goals came from kind of just force rather than skill.
Yeah, that's what we talked about, didn't we, HG? I said that, and you were sort of saying they were like lucky, which they were. We got a couple of deflections, but in the first half, we weren't even pushing bodies into those positions to get into the position to have the chance to either get that shot away or for it to even deflect off someone like it did through Doggy to get it back. And the same for Werner and the same for Charleston. We weren't even getting in positions to do that. So at least we started to do that second half.
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting confused with the last 2 goals of what happened when. Because the last one was the one that Porro played it. Yeah, Richarlison got the goal, but like how it went
Maddison.
right. Because I feel like, so like Porro passed it into Højbjerg, who put it through to Udogie, who then bundled forward, got it into Maddison. Maddison had a bit of a toe poke that came to Richarlison, right? So it feels like the second goal to me was probably the best.
Yeah.
And all that really was Timo Werner getting half a yard down the line, actually kicking it with some power. Whether he's trying to cross or shoot, no one really cares because the other winger was there to tap it in, right? And so you see good teams score those goals. It doesn't really matter whether he massively intended it or not. It worked. But again, it came from Brentford being in our half, basically. And suddenly we've got a break 4v4 or whatever it would have been. And we come away with a goal. I can't believe that we will get that much better when Sarr comes back. And if you think about our best 11, we're only probably missing Sarr and Son.
That's correct.
Right?
We're only missing 2.
So if you're only missing 2, but you're playing, to me, quite poorly, there are issues, right? Like,
Son's massive, though. Son's massive, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I saw this in the comments.
Because of his finishing, really well. HG. Could just because of his finishing. I don't think he's always played that well. Like I said, against Brighton and when he got in just before he went away, I don't think he had some great games. But like against Bournemouth, he's just an elite finisher off both feet.
I tell you what, let's say we played that first half tonight, right? The first half tonight, only we have Son and Sarr in the team. Do you think we're any better? I don't think we would be. Not really. I don't think that Son would provide the width that we might want because he likes to cut inside and shoot. And Sarr over Skip, like Sarr's a better player, but is he going to make those runs from midfield? Are we going to have those shots from distance that we didn't really see? That one from Richarlison that almost went in. But as an 11, if Brentford play 3 centre-backs and 3 in midfield and just say, right, the wings are all yours, off you go, I don't think we have the quality down the wings to actually make that work. And so go on.
I think the wings are a massive issue for us. Oh, well, not massive. I think they're bigger than people like to think they are. Our wide men. I don't think they're quite good enough. I thought Richarlison was fantastic tonight, and I've not been a massive fan of Richarlison, but I think he has got better at holding the ball up. Still not great. Still a few loose touches, or he tries to sort of like hold it and turn it at the same time, and he gets caught. But I do think out wide, and it sounds strange because Werner, obviously, he's had a few assists now. Kulusevski is a decent player, but he's not been at it. Johnson scored tonight, but I don't think they're at this. Because let's be honest, whatever we're saying, HG, that team and Jack, Bentancur when he's fully fit, because I don't think he's fully fit yet. Maddison, when he's fully fit, will be a different beast with Sarr or Basuma in there playing. And then Richarlison, obviously Son will make a difference to us, but I do think don't think the forwards, because none of them will take a man on, will they? People know that when our wide men get it, they're not going to, the fullback isn't going to know which way they're going. They pretty much know that they'll sort of run at them and then they'll stop and they'll pass it back and we'll just pass it in front of the back four. And I think it stifles us. I really do. I think we need a player out wide. We need somebody who's going to. We haven't really got anybody who commits players.
Yeah. Sorry, Jack, go on.
No, that's why I put this comment up, because I don't think it's that teams are figuring us out as much as we're not executing. I still think everyone should understand that I believe Ange Ball isn't going to be really proficient until probably into next season and after another transfer window, because you're right. We don't have enough quality up front, particularly out wide, to play this. If they're not going to develop the players that we have, then they're going to have to sign new ones, I think, to do what you're talking about, Gibbo. But on the Richarlison front, I think he's been marvelous since he's been played through the middle. But I do think that we have to recognize this is as good as he gets. I don't think there's another level for him to get. He is actually playing really well. Yeah, he's a little clumsy here and there, but tonight he was all over the field, and I thought he played fantastic. In fact, I wrote down, I think it was only maybe Richie and Van de Ven who had outstanding games, who didn't really have any errors or problems. I thought they were really, really good.
But if this is as good as it gets with him, sorry, HG, if this is how good it gets with him, that's fine. I think that would be fine if we had wide men that could beat a man and just lay balls across for him to be in that. But if he can hold it up, lay people in, hit the box, and then our wide men either make a decent final ball or make a good decision, or can beat a man and get it in the box and just roll it across to him, that will be fine. But at the minute, he's just sort of like foraging and feeding off scraps, like his goal was basically a lucky ricochet in the right place and he scored.
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. We've been so spoiled by having Harry Kane for a decade that we've had this striker who can hold the ball up, who can pass like a 10, who can shoot off either foot, who's 6'2" and can head the ball really well. I mean, if he had pace, that was literally the only thing he never really had. But because he was so smart, he never really needed it that much. And so, Richarlison has a couple of things that he's elite at, and there's a reason why he's the number 9 for Brazil, because he can bring others in, but you need to be able to do that for Spurs, right? And if we don't have the creative players behind, it's gonna be a struggle. And so, we saw in the second half, Maddison and Kulusevski. Okay, Spurs were a bit more threatening because it was less, horseshoe football, and we were actually trying to get round the back on occasion. But we never really got to grips with the Brentford midfield when it was, when we weren't 3-1 up and it was back to normal. But it's just that the sad thing about tonight is at 3-1, we said this, at 3-1, Brentford were done. They had no interest. They had no belief that they could get back in that game, right?
Yeah,
and so we gift them a goal. No, yeah, we gift them a goal, and then suddenly they're and they came close to equalising. Baptiste at the end probably should have scored, right? So Spurs have massive issues, and we can sit and discuss that. Maybe when everyone's back, those issues won't exist. But we're looking at attacking players, to me, because I feel like our back five is pretty good, and our midfield, if we get the right balance, will be pretty good. But that front three, we haven't seen it really work this season. We haven't. And again, maybe it's because we've had so many different players play down the left. Right, because we've had Solomon there, we've had Son there, we've had Richarlison there. Perisic came on as a sub. Brian Hill has even played a few minutes. Yeah, and now Werner is there, and it's still a problem position, right?
But all 3 goals came from down the left. At least in that brief stint where we actually were there, everything worked and everything came down the left.
It's true, and Udogie was a massive part of it, of all 3, right? I think so.
Yeah. And I know you're not a massive Werner fan, HG, but I thought he would be a useful player because I actually, even though, a bad miss and his touch at times was woeful in some of the things he does, but I still think he's probably better than the other wide players we've got. He is an improvement on those wide players and he's done what we've thought. But we need to massively improve out wide, I think. Obviously, they were looking at Noosa, weren't they? So Perisic is. I think Perisic has been a bigger miss than we think because we've been doing all right. But the ability for him when he crosses it, he crosses like he was the best out of all the ones we had even at his age of getting a ball in the box. He was, he's the best one. But I just want to. I mean, I love Kulusevski, but he was poor tonight.
Yeah.
I thought he was really poor.
Yeah,
he looked slow. And what I keep saying with Spurs, and I've said in the group, is our final pass and decision making is bad. It needs to improve it, but it's not been great all season. That is something that we really have to improve on. And the other thing I just wanted to bring up is we went ahead because we were playing a certain way. HG said they were never in the game, and then we give them a goal. But we stopped doing what was causing them problems and went back to what was making it easy for them in the first half. And I just couldn't understand it. And even when they got the second and they're trying for a third, we're sort of like pending our own half. We can't get the ball. We can't do what we were doing that was so successful for the first 15, 20 minutes of the second half. I just don't understand it.
I know that Ange doesn't like the idea of game management, right? He wants to go out and score more goals. Fair enough, right? That is, I don't think any Spurs fan has a real issue with that. But the thing is that at 3-1 up, the game is done, right? So we don't need to attack in the way that we got those 3 goals because Brentford weren't going to allow it. They were just going to say, you know what, you can have the ball. We'll put our 9 behind we'll put 9 behind the ball, and we'll stop you from scoring a 4th. But they weren't really massively trying to counter. They did keep 2 strikers on, to be fair, but it went back to being how it was in the first half because I feel that Brentford knew, again, when we had that game against them last season at home, where I think we were 1-0 up at half time and Brentford made a half time substitution and wiped the floor with us in the second half and deservedly won 3-1. Well, that Tottenham is not who we are. And Thomas Frank knows that, right? So he understands that the best way to stop Spurs being what they want to be is to stop Spurs and just say, we are going to defend and we are going to play on the counter. And I think, weirdly enough, I do think Ivan Toney played pretty well, despite missing the chance that he got that he somehow put past the post, despite scoring the goal. Those 2 goals go in like they should have done, and we're 3-3. I mean, that's the crazy thing. Spurs, we weren't good. We just happened to score more than them. And so I think we've had a conversation on previous shows about how those run of games in April are super important when we play most of the big 6 around us, right? But right now, I feel like these are the important games. I feel like a couple of seasons ago, we lost at home to Southampton and Wolves consecutively, right? I think it was under Conte, and then we went on a run. But we all thought at that time those 2 results will cost us, right? And thankfully, it didn't because Arsenal choked it. But it feels like that we've got 3 home games out of 4 next, right?
Yeah.
And so these are the games. If we can somehow eke a victory. Oh no, because the Chelsea game's being
3 of 5. Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Brighton. We've got Brighton, Palace, and Wolves at home.
Exactly, 3 in a row. So, hopefully by that point, I mean, some will be back, right? So we shouldn't have those issues. But these next 3 or 4 games, when we're at home, we get those points. We win against Everton on Saturday, and that won't be easy. But if we get 3 points there, didn't someone say we go second? I think I read somewhere that we go second, just because.
Just because we're the first game. We're the first game. Yeah,
exactly. Right. So, having the opportunity to put points on the board is massive. Aston Villa have to go to Sheffield United, who clearly aren't good, but are desperate. It's about taking the opportunities. We got 3 points tonight, which is really all that matters.
Yeah.
We can talk about how badly we played. We got 3 goals, 2 deflections. I'll take them all every day of the week. But we all know, and we've seen it in previous seasons, that it's no guarantee that this will happen again, right? We've got good results from bad performances, and it's all come crashing down. So we just have to hope that the performances can improve. And how can we help that happen? What do you guys think? How can the performances really improve? What can we do with the players we have?
Well, I genuinely think that Maddison back up to full speed, Bentancur back up to full speed, Basuma and Sarr in that squad will make a difference. I mean, because when we were playing well, they were all playing apart from Bentancur, but they were like at it as well, weren't they? You know, like I said, Son will. He's the best goal scorer we've got, even though Rich is doing a good job at the minute. But Son will score more goals than the rest of them. He's got more goals in him. And apart from that, when you look at the squad, I just think we just need all those players at it and to play with a bit more energy and a bit more impetus. And that's all we can do with those players. I think the way for us to actually get better is get better wide men on the pitch and the team make better decisions in the final areas.
Because it's interesting. Like, I mean, I've said this in previous shows. I still believe the best half an hour of football we've played all season was when we played Villa at home and we had Brian Hill down the left and Brennan Johnson down the right, neither of which I think are fantastic players, but the system worked. It seemed to function. I couldn't tell you who the defenders were. I couldn't. The midfielders, I think Bentancur came in.
Played.
The Chelsea played. Kulusevski. So it was a super attacking formation, and we all thought Villa were going to do us here. But for that half hour, we were really good. Until Bentancur got nobbled, we were really good in that game. And it seemed to work.
Movement.
Yeah.
Movement. We have too many. When you've got like Skip, Bentancur at the moment, because like what I'm trying to say, you're not getting the movement from them. And then, so they sort of want the ball to feet and play it in front of them. Whereas when we were at it and they're fit, they're moving, aren't they? The movement off the ball is more like the Chelsea when he's fit. Yeah. He does move off the ball, doesn't he? And I think that makes a massive difference. When teams can just sit in, the minute we started moving them about today, we started progressing the ball up the pitch, committing men, drawing men out, and we had players running into those spaces. We looked a different beast. But when it's just like flat, take it up to a fullback, pass it back, pass it sideways, pass it that way again, teams will just sit in there and stop you doing it.
Oh, we both had the same idea, I think, whoever that was.
Yeah, we did.
You want to put it back up? There we go. Like, yeah, Flecken didn't make a save apart from pick the ball out of his net, really. I think there was one shot towards the end that he saved, but it was already 3-2 by that point. But, yeah, like...
There was a comment, HG, on Twitter, somebody saying we've had one or was it one? Well, I can't even remember now. One or two shots in 135 minutes of football.
Yeah,
and for a team trying to finish top four or challenge for the league as we possibly could, not many teams who are doing that go that long without peppering somebody's goal, do they?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, obviously the City game is in there, and City will keep it away from anyone. But you're right. Like 45 minutes at home against Brentford. Like, thankfully, it was the first 45 where we played badly and we didn't really shoot, and not the second 45. But yeah, it feels like we got away with one, and I hope. I haven't heard what Ange said after the game. I've seen some of the comments about what people have put about Ange, so I feel like Ange is aware. Like, there was certainly one moment in the second half, and we're 3-1 up, and we screwed an attack, and Ange went ballistic on the touchline. They showed him effing and blinding at the I think it was a miss from. I think Porro had the shot in the end that went kind of high and wide, but we had a chance to make it 4, and we took wrong options, and that seemed to really.
No, that was the one that Decky ran around the ball to his left foot. He was wide open on his right, and then he decided to do a 180 around the ball and trying to take it on his left. I don't understand. He scored 2 goals with his right foot this year. I don't understand. And he had a nice cross at one point with his right foot. I don't understand what he's thinking. He thinks he's got time to run around the ball and line up his left foot. I mean, that's the craziest thing I've seen a professional footballer do in a while.
He doesn't shoot. He doesn't shoot with his left foot. He appears to me too reticent to shoot with his left foot either. It's as if the bloke genuinely doesn't want to shoot. He just wants to lay it across for someone or tap one in.
Yeah. But okay, look, I guess it's somewhat negative, right? 45.
Yeah.
So we're
going off.
And
yes, I agree.
It is massively important that we got the points. With Villa losing, right? Again, plus Villa not just losing, but losing to a decent team will kind of knock them back a bit. It will always be about the points. It's just that performances are a really good indicator whether we're good enough. And like the Everton game, I mean, any of the next few games that everyone looks at them and says these are winnable games. Well, they are, but the chance of you winning those games gets much less when you're not playing well. Right. And we can sit here and pontificate about why we're not playing well, but we aren't playing well. And
I think the four games you were talking about earlier, HG, when we played the four good teams, will not be easier than the games we've got coming up, but they will. Like City will be tough at home. City are unbelievable, aren't they? But like Anfield away, we never win there. Yeah. But they will play. They will be open against us.
Those teams will need to win, and that helps us.
Yeah, and they will need to win, and that will help us. So they'll sort of take care of themselves. What will be there. If we take it's a good chance in some of them. If we take our chances, that we could actually go to Liverpool and get something this year, and we never go there. So, yeah.
I think we can be positive in the sense that even though we're missing two starters, they're two critical starters, and Maddison isn't anywhere near sharp and game fit, and Bentancur isn't sharp and game fit. I feel like, I said this on this show many times, Sarr is like salt. You only miss him when he's not there, because he doesn't catch your eye when you're playing, unless you're a real tactical aware type of fan. And he is critical to everything we do in terms of the space he covers in, the channels, and again, having another midfielder who's press resistant, who's comfortable on the ball. You can give him tight spaces, and he rarely makes mistakes. I think he prevents a lot of errors just by the amount of time he's on the ball, so that others aren't. Yeah. And so him coming back in, I think, is going to make a huge difference Saturday, because we're going to need his energy. Because we're going to be the first game. We're going to be a little leggy after the trip up to Everton. Get there. So
I suppose the good thing about today is that how many of our midfielders played 90 minutes? Not many. Right? Hope you only got a half. Bentancur only got a half. Skip only got a half. So if Sarr comes back in, then like really only Kulusevski is the one that will say, I might play 90 minutes twice. Everybody else, we almost did rotate the team and get away with it. So that Everton team, like Maddison getting 86 minutes, I can't believe he'll get 90 on Saturday, because he's not fit. And I think 2.5 days until the Saturday game, like it would be probably better for Spurs to say, you know what, at Everton, let's go with the pace down the wings. Let's have Johnson and Werner, and we'll put Kulusevski in the middle with Sarr and probably Bentancur, right? And you say, you know what, like Maddison, if we need to go after an hour, okay, fine. Well, we'll see how the game goes. But to push him to do 86 minutes tonight, where we did struggle, right? And then to ask him to do it again in 2.5 days might be a bit too much. But it's nice to suppose that I'm sure he will start him, right? But there is this idea that at least whatever the midfield options are, not many of them will be super knackered. Right?
And do you know what we're talking about, midfielders? Basuma was superb at the start of the season. I know he had a bit of a dodgy patch, iffy patch, obviously got the sending off, and then he's been away. But he's a guy that can come on for us in games, and he can take the ball off the defenders as well. He can bring the ball forward. If he's at it, he'll be another massive plus for us when he's back. It's just a decent option, and he should be fit, because he's not played all the games out there, has he? He's not been playing 90 minutes every game.
We have to hope, and it sounds awful, because although I like them as people and I want them to win for their country, I'm a Spurs fan. I'm not a South Korea fan. I'm not a Mali fan. And so the games that they play this weekend, whenever it's the quarterfinals for them, if they lose those, then they will be back for Brighton, right? Which is a week on Saturday.
Yep.
If they don't lose those and they have to play the semi-finals, then we probably won't see them for Brighton either, right? Regardless of what happens. They may even if they have a third, fourth place playoff, we're screwed, right? So this Saturday is suddenly like the day of days.
Really big, important, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never been, I felt a little guilty about, I've never rooted for Saudi Arabia in anything. And I felt a little guilty about it, because, I mean, we all love Sonny, and I'd love for him to win that tournament. I know how big and important that is to him and in Asian football, but I was not happy when they got the equalizer. I mean, and I'm the same way when Mali got through, I'm like, great. So I'm with you on that. You want to see him get knocked out for the very reason is because you want him back as a Spurs fan. Yeah, want him back.
And more importantly than all of this, are we going to have a big transfer deadline day tomorrow?
Well, I kept trying to put up those comments earlier, but you guys weren't taking the clue. The answer is no, unless a deal falls in Daniel's lap, like just something that just somebody calls up and says, "Hey, I've got so and so, and here's the price," and he just can't turn it down.
We've been after a Van der Vaart signing since we signed Van der Vaart, haven't we?
Yeah, very good point.
Was that before your time, Jack? Even
well, I'm aware. Yes, it's before my time, but I'm aware of it. So from conversation and just researching and learning more, I'm at least aware of that deal. Yeah, exactly. So I don't see the squad we have is the squad we have, and that's what we're going to be dealing with. And that, quite frankly, in my opinion, the squad we have is good enough to probably get us high as third, assuming that Liverpool and City are 1-2.
You don't think we'll
anyway
bring anyone in? You don't think this central midfielder we're after?
Something has to fall in our lap
now. Yeah.
Like we're not going to commit the money that Chelsea want for Conor Gallagher, right? Regardless of whether I think we should, we're not going to do it, right? And so then it leaves you with what? I mean, we're looking at, again, it's January, it's loan to buys. The fact that we've actually bought one player with money in January feels so rare. Was it Bergwijn was the last time we did it? I mean, it doesn't happen very often.
He'll go, won't he?
Bentancur would have been, because we paid for him too. But it's
we did, yeah.
Do I think Spurs are looking? Yes, right. But I do feel that any moves that are ins will be players that won't play with us until the summer anyway, right? It's permanent deals are what we're looking for, really, and I don't blame them for thinking that way, because in many ways our squad is decent, right? It's just about finding an attack that actually functions, because weirdly enough, for Spurs, we've scored a load of goals this season. We've just scored 3 tonight, right? And we've won the game, and with 3 goals, and 3 goals should win you all games. But it does feel as if the attack is the problem child, which is crazy because we score lots of goals, but they're coming from all throughout the team, right? Like Richarlison's on a hot streak. Son had his hot streak earlier. But we've had defenders chip in with goals. Like Emerson Royal's got a couple, it feels like, and Romero.
Johnson's going to go on a run now.
Yeah, so they're chipping in, which is great. But there is this kind of if we were creating chance after chance and missing them, I would almost feel better than what we saw tonight, which was we somehow got 3 half chances and shanked them over the line.
I think the issue is that we're not missing chance after chance. We're missing the assist, if you get what I mean. We're fucking up the assist, aren't we? Or the final pass, or the pass to get into that excellent position. But I did just want to say, and it's gone unnoticed, Romero was excellent again tonight.
Yeah,
excellent.
The tackle at 70 in the 74th minute, I wrote it down. That was an open field, brilliant tackle that was definitely stopping a very good chance.
I think is that where he just stood in the middle of the pitch and just won the ball? Yeah.
I think he's becoming. Obviously, he still has his hot-headed moments, and he goes off chasing people. But I think at times now you watch him, and he is just a class above. He just to me now looks at a different class. I just thought he was fantastic again.
Captaincy suits him by the looks of it. Really does.
Yeah. All right, well, fellas, we've been going almost an hour. It is dinner time on the East Coast of the United States of America.
Bedtime here.
So I think it's time we can wrap this show up, if that's okay with you guys.
Oh, is it boxed mac and cheese for you again tonight, Jack? Or what is the American dinner du jour?
Actually, I don't know tonight because I was not in charge of cooking, and I think this is takeout night, but I don't know what we got. The only thing I said is if we're getting takeout, don't do Indian, because I'm cooking Indian food tomorrow night.
There we go. The important things in the cheese room.
There you go. Named after
I brought it up. It's my own fault. But yeah. Oh,
brilliant.
All right.
This is Teddy. If you can hear him snoring, Teddy Sheringham. He's named after.
Brilliant. Love it. Love it. All right. Well, listen, everyone who joined us for the instant reaction tonight, I really appreciate you chiming in. Don't forget, please hit the subscribe button so you can get alerted to our shows in the future. Hit that like button on your way out. It helps out all the time. So with that in mind, we've got another game kind of right on the heels Saturday. So let's keep this roll. No matter how ugly it is, we still need 3 points. All right.
Yep.
Gibbo, thanks so much.
There's another show Friday as well.
Oh, that's right.
So
We do have the Friday night preview
Caller
show.
and
Are
I
you
think
on?
Jack-
Caller and the Aussie lads.
Yeah, a couple of the Aussies are on. So yeah, we'll previewing the Everton game, but yeah, not me.
Yeah.
So people don't have to listen to my voice anymore. Fantastic.
No, don't be like that.
All right. We appreciate you guys joining us, and always remember, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you MF Spurs.